I tried every one there was out there. My first one was an A-frame style. Our property was woods. It's hilly. It's wet. Moving the chicken tractor downhill in a straight line is easy peasy. But when you hit a tree and gotta go left and right, it's hard. And I tried to make all types of adjustments. I put wheels on the side. It never worked. I tried the Salatin chicken tractor, which I absolutely despised. But I know it works for Joel, but it did not work for us at all.
Mary Carl at the time was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and we're asking her to get down in the tractor
to get the chickens out.
Yeah. Because he and I were both too big to get down in there.
I don't know how he does it. I've never seen him get the chickens out on processing day. He's got to have a system to it. But the Salatin chicken tractor, I'm sure most of y'all know, is like 2 foot off the ground, and it's got a door to this up. And on processing day, the first 5 or 6 will come on up, and you can get those, but the rest of them figure out quick something's going on. So they're going to the back of that chicken tractor.
You can't go.
No, not at all.
They've seen what happened to their friends, and they're not coming forward.
So the chicken tractor thing has gotten so stressful for us, and with meat chickens, the number one thing that's gonna make or break the outcome is stress. That will determine what weight you're gonna get on the meat chicken, in my opinion, more than anything. And that can be anything. It can be weather related. It can be super cold one day. It can have a huge rainy system come through and it rained for 2 solid weeks. It could be a predator issue that came in and scared them all to death. But stress is the number one reason, in my opinion, why they won't perform like you want them to. And so we were stressed out about the chicken tractor. I know they were getting stressed out about the chicken tractor. So I started trying to come up with other ways to raise meat chickens in an ethical way that I can sell to these restaurants and caterers. And it dawned on me, we have egg layers. Our egg layers are free range. They go up at night, the door comes open in the morning, they come out in the morning, and they walk around, and they could have free range of our whole property, but I noticed that they didn't go very far out. Even though they could go the whole 7 acres if they wanted to, they never went very far out.
Referring to meat chickens.
No, the egg layers. So, not able to. But so what I thought is if I could do this with our meat chickens. So I started thinking of ways how I could do it, and then I thought, well, it's got to be mobile. So I came up with an idea, and that was to build a mobile chicken coop that I can tear down after I got through processing that batch and allow them to free range in a controlled environment. So what I did was I built a hoop house at a cattle house. It was 10 by 20. I took T-posts and I put the T-posts down in the ground. I'd set the cattle panel in, I'd bow it over, put T-posts down, and that's what held it together. Then I put a tarp over it, and that kept them out of weather. And then I took your electric poultry netting. We actually had 3 of them. So it was a huge area for these guys to go. And I could put this setup on any place on my property. I didn't have to worry about moving it. They had plenty of room to free range. And then we could tear it down and put it in another spot and not use that spot for 6 months. And then the hay bedding we would take, we could compost it down and turn it into compost. And it worked so well. We would let them out in the mornings. They would come out. We put all their feeders outside. And we fed ours 24/7. I know I call it a myth because from our experience, it doesn't matter if you feed them 24/7 or 12 on or 12 off because a chicken is a chicken is a chicken. At night, that meat chicken is going to go up to roost and sleep just like any other egg layer chicken. They're not in there gorging on feed at 9:30 at night. They're asleep. So what we found is that if you didn't feed them 24/7, and if you didn't get out there at 4:30 in the morning when they wake up, they're hungry. So they start piling up at the front of the door, especially when they see you coming. And it's so stressful on them because they'll start climbing on top of each other and all that. So if you feed them 24/7, when they wake up, they can go eat. And we never had any issues with legs. We never had any issues with our hearts exploding because you hear that a lot. None of that. And that's what we did. We would open the door up, let them out free range, and then at night they would go back up.
We might have a few that were left over.
Yeah, you would have a few. Yeah.
But it wasn't like you were on a wild goose chase
Right.
trying to track chickens down. They were so heavy that they couldn't linger far from their house where they slept at night, and they didn't want to because they knew where their food was.
That's right. And also I know that the number one question I get asked with this setup is, what about predators? Well, we live in central Alabama. We have coyotes, foxes, raccoons, possums, and stray dogs. For us, we had hawks. Hawk was our biggest predator, but we had no issues whatsoever with anything else. But we did have 2 livestock guardian dogs that patrolled our area, and between them and electric poultry netting, we had no issues. Now, every now and then, once or twice a year, maybe 3 times, a hawk would get one of them, and we would just chalk that up of Mother Nature being Mother Nature. We would just, let it be. It would be very, very hard and time consuming to try to figure out a way to deter a hawk from coming in. And if they're just getting 1 or 2 a year, then that was all right with us. So we figured out the whole chicken tractor setup. It was working well. Then what I started doing was when we got money and made profit, I would reinvest that money right back into the business. Our first pieces of equipment were a Featherman scalder and a Featherman plucker. And then as time went on, it was just me and her. Every now and then I would have a buddy or 2 that would come help us, but most of the time it was just me and Brooke processing chickens. And then it dawned on me, we're doing 100 chickens every 6 weeks. All right, 100 chickens. If you can think of a way to reduce a chicken by 1 minute per chicken, that's 100 minutes. Then 2 minutes is 200 minutes. That's 3 hours of processing time right there. If you can just shave off a minute or 2. So I started doing research, and then I would take that money we would make and I would buy more equipment. So our first one was a scalder and a plucker, and we would take our hand and just dump them by hand in the scalder, come up, the restaurant wanted the feet, we had to flip them over, dump the feet, and then put them in the plucker. My next piece of equipment was a manual dunker that attached to the side of the scalder, and it would hold 4 chickens, and it would dump the whole thing. So I've doubled my production right there, right off the bat. Probably saved us 3 hours by getting that manual dunker.
I would have walked to work to get back the time that we saved after we got the manual dunker. It was literally a lifesaver.
It was. The manual dunker was awesome, and we found it on Craigslist. We didn't buy it new, we found it on Craigslist. Our next piece of equipment was the carousel stand Featherman makes. It's got 8 killing combs on it, and it's got a kind of like a bucket on the bottom of it, container on the bottom of it, and it spins around. So when you're dispatching the chickens, you can do 8 at a time, and it just shaved off another, probably another 30, 40 minutes. It increased that.
Right. It was definitely times well saved.
Yeah, time well saved. Then we'd make a little bit more money, and the next thing I bought was the roto dunker from Featherman. I don't know if you've ever seen this or not, but it's 2 cages with a rotisserie motor that hooks on the side of the scalder. And you can put 4 chickens on it, and it slowly, like a rotisserie, they go in the water, out the water. And what makes it great is that it's hard to overscald because you can't overscald the chicken. And it made it hard to overscald. So I could put 4 chickens in there while she's cleaning. I could go around and then start separating liver, heart, gizzards, get them bagged, put them on ice, and those guys would be ready to go in the plucker. So that was like having another guy there working for us, for, I don't know how much it was, probably 3 or 4
Well, we
months.
found it on Craigslist as well.
We found everything on Craigslist except our first initial purchase of the Featherman plucker and the Featherman scalder. The rest of it we found on Craigslist. But I did start trying to think of all kind of ways to save time. The next thing we bought was the chicken transport cages. Our original thing was that we would take a dog crate, strap it to the back of the side-by-side, back up to where we had the meat chicken set up. We could probably get 8 in there, drive back down to where our processing area was.
That would take us 12 trips with 8 chickens.
12 trips. The chicken carrying cages will hold up to 8 to 12 chickens. They stack them on top of each other. So we went from getting 8 to at least 24. So that just saved so much time. We got so good at it. Me and her could process 100 chickens, bagged, weighed, and on ice in about 2.5, 3 hours. We were rolling.
Tyson wanted us back.
But yeah, it was really, we really got it rolling. And then COVID hit. COVID hit, we were serving a high-end restaurant, selling chicken for $4.25 a pound. They were averaging 6 pounds a piece. You're talking about a $24, $25 chicken whole. We were selling to a high-end restaurant. We were selling to a high-end catering service. The food truck had stopped, and both those guys went out of business. And so we were like, oh my gracious, you know, what are we going to do? Competition's tough. So it wasn't really, we reached out to several other restaurants. Of course, we got turned down. Then we decided to maybe back off a little bit. And then, lo and behold, our YouTube channel took off. And all that happened right at the same time. It was awesome.
Yeah, we kind of feel like everything lined up just right. I mean, it was just perfect timing. As to us being told that we were no longer going to be raising big chickens to have that extra money that we needed to provide for our family. We were just, I mean, you're out of business overnight, basically. So what do you do?
So that's what we did. We ended up selling our equipment. We sold our equipment to a family in Illinois who drove down that day and bought it for $500 less than what we paid for it. And we had used it for 5 years. It was amazing. But that equipment holds its value. And Featherman, they paid me to say this, nothing like that at all. But Featherman equipment is really, really nice if you're doing it for business. You know, if you're homesteading, maybe different. Depending on how many chickens you're doing. You know, if you're doing 3 or 4 chickens a year, you may look into some higher end equipment.
I want to ask a question. How many of y'all out there knew that we raised chickens for meat previously?
Oh wow, more than I thought.
Well, I just wanted to address the situation that we no longer process chickens.
Yeah.
And all of our chickens have names.
Yeah, we no longer process chickens, but I still have the farming bug. I mean, I love it. And we're fixing to start a flower farm. That's our next adventure, is try flower farming. I do have a few tips that we learned along the way. One tip is, if y'all live in a rural area and have a local grocery store, not Walmart, not Winn-Dixie, we have Winn-Dixie, I don't know what Piggly that's what we have. Not the big major chains, but a local grocery store. Ask those guys what they do with their old produce, the old dairy. Just ask them what they do. You know, we had hogs for a long time. We ran hogs. We sold hogs to the restaurant.
Y'all, I would be at the grocery store in the morning before 8 o'clock, which was what time they opened, sitting outside in my car, waiting to go in to get produce every morning. Because it saved us. It saved us money. And the pigs loved it. The chickens loved it.
Yeah, they loved it, especially dairy products. You could soak their feed, the chicken feed, with the dairy product. One of our biggest chickens we raised was we added goat milk to their feed, and man, they were big.
Alabama
really,
law
really
says you can't buy goat milk. So for personal use, but we found a ad that said animal consumption goat milk. So we bought several gallons of it that were frozen.
Yep.
And we put it in our freezer and we would thaw it out and add it to the top of our chicken feed. This was the broilers now, not our laying hens. I don't know if it would add any laying ability, but they loved it. And they packed the weight on. It was the most, just the fat, which is what you want, the yellow fat of the chicken, was just crazy. It was beautiful. And to say that about a chicken that's processed is crazy, but it made a beautiful chicken.
It really did. Other thing that we would do with the old produce is, number one, the meat chickens are not going to really go hardcore to head of lettuce out there or anything like that. But if you had a food processor and process it up and then add it to their feed, they'll eat every bit of it, and it's free. It's free. You know, the bread's free, all that's free. And I say this too. You know, there's several ways to do things, and you know, I think a lot of us, especially us early on, you know, you get, you know, in that box because Joel does it this way, or somebody does it this way, or so and so does it this way. That's the way you have to do it. But it's not true. You know, each farm is different, each homestead is different, everybody's different, everybody's got a different situation. Not everybody has 1,000 acres of pristine pasture land that they can do things on. They just don't. So, you know, I always tell everybody, you know, do the best you can with what you got. If you can't afford organic feed, it doesn't matter. If you're in a super rural area and there's no non-GMO feed at your feed store, don't beat yourself up about it. It doesn't matter, because what you do and grow for yourself at your place is way better than what you can buy at the grocery store, and it just is. So I got caught in that trap a lot, and I just hope people out there understand that don't beat yourself up if you can't do it like so-and-so does it, or so-and-so does it, or if I don't do it with organic feed, just do the best you can with what you got. That's it.
I'm telling you, I would have gave up long before Jason did. He just kept plugging away and kept plugging away, kept looking for new ideas to make this work. And I mean, just say, don't give up.
Yeah, don't
Keep on keeping on. Don't give up. You'll find an answer. It may not be immediate, but don't give up.
Do we take questions now, Doug? We're doing a big Q&A later.
We're not done.
We're not done.
We're not done. Who have we brought here? Well, she's here too, but she doesn't dance. He didn't know I was going to do this.
Did not know she was going to do this.
And I don't know if Dutch can help me or not, but I asked him earlier. I might not should have sprung this on him so spur of the moment, but. If y'all were in Florida earlier in 21, you saw Uptown Funk, but he's got a big stage. He sure does. I think he'd do better on the concrete. Just keep in mind, Daniel's up next.
Expecting that? No. Tim's up next. Come on, get up there, Tim.
Sea salt, sunflower leaves.
All right. I'm going to thank a couple sponsors. One was my buddy Red over at 100 Acre Wood Highlands. That's where Fred, my bull, came from. Big Fred. Mac Fred. Claymart Warehouse, Stillwater Milling Company, Las Fuentes, Pigging Out, and remember at 3 p.m. is the deadline to claim your giveaways. There's a bright green sign out there with numbers on it to check your tickets against. Don't forget to submit your Q&A questions in the box right back there. Okay. And do a giveaway. Hang on a second.
All right, guys. Sorry for the first half of that live feed, but I don't know what happened. She was trying to get on my Wi-Fi. Totally killed the live feed, but nonetheless. We may go live a little later, so you guys stay tuned. I'm going to try to show you guys everything that's going on here. Real live stream, whatever I can. See you guys soon. Thanks for watching.